I was approached to do this by Kirsten because she said, you know, we've got this vague cat theme. Could someone help me do this? No, I just want to screw that into that bit. That would be amazing, thank you. So I was told that they're going to have a cat theme. You don't need to talk about, you can talk about what you like, really, because we know you love cats. And I thought, okay. So in my day job, I'm usually talking a lot about policy and a lot about business development for companies in the games industry, because I head up UKIE, which is a trade association for the games industry. And, you know, my day job is great, and I love it. But before that, I was involved in commissioning content, and I've always loved cats. So when this opportunity came, I thought, well, why not? So I've never, ever done this presentation before. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm going to be making some, probably on the surface, quite tenuous links. And I'm really sorry, but I have to get this out somehow. And maybe it's for further development, I don't know. I've committed myself to this year making a game myself. And it's definitely going to be cat themes. I think there's a big shortage of cat games in the world. And it's nice to see that I've been trying early versions of Cat Lateral Damage and any cat game I can get my hand on. So forgive me if this is really tenuous linking of really bizarre things and you think I'm utter bonkers. Usually I'm very sane, and come and enjoy UKIE and find out more about what we actually do. So, cats. As we know, in ancient times, I love this quote, Terry Pratchett, in ancient times, cats were worshipped as gods. They have not forgotten this. They really have not forgotten this. And, you know, we have become quite accustomed to images in mythology and also, you know, proper history, the representations and the power of cats. If you're anyone like my sister, you actually do believe that they were alien species who, you know, built all the pyramids and everything else, and then that's why they were worshipped. She's not that mad, but she has cats. And, you know, they've always been animals that have appeared in sort of mythology. I love the kind of images that we get of Freya, this Norse goddess of fertility, who apparently had 2 blue cats pulling her chariot in war, and they were gifts from Thor. I think that's the next Thor film that needs to be made. And then, of course, you know, these kinds of images which have been dug up out of, I think they're military archives from Germany, I believe, which were doves and cats being used as rockets and bombs, which, you know, is not so nice when you want to protect animals, you know. But I found this fascinating, and I believe someone might be making a game out of this history. And of course, we have very well-known monarchs who were, in fact, cats, little-known facts, but they were world leaders. And I don't see Charles Creel in the audience. Charles Creel, who some of you might know from 12 Stories High, he actually sent me this picture when I was talking about this presentation. His grandmother actually trained cats to push prams. And she actually had this as a roadshow that she used to take to circuses. So Charles sent me this picture. This is his actual grandmother. You can see that her face is scratched out. I don't know if that was from the cat or from Charles or from her. So, you know, they've got a long kind of history and mythology. And, you know, I've often people have said to me, what is it you love about cats? Why are you so obsessed with cats? Why do you like cats? Why not dogs? And I said, I don't mind dogs. Dogs are fine. But, you know, I love this quote. And I'm going to be reading out quite a lot of quotes because people say these kinds of things and make these links for me much better than I can. So the cat's aloofness. They're very aloof, cats. Cat's aloofness have caused people to perceive it as mysterious as well as independent. We can easily imagine it listening in on the family conversation for its own sinister purposes, as the cat does an Irish folktale, Oni and Oni na Peak, that very well-known folktale, which I expect a game to be created out of any moment now. Its natural qualities can readily be interpreted as evidence of uncanny abilities, which may be seen as divine or demonic. Its silent, inconspicuous movements suggest that it can magically appear and disappear. Its dispassionate, wide-eyed gaze, unusually direct for an animal, suggests that it is challenging humans or relentlessly searching into their inner selves. Its ability to see in near darkness, together with its keen hearing, smell, and tactile sense so enhances its perceptions that it seems to have preternatural knowledge, even the ability to predict the future. We do not marvel at the dog's equally remarkable senses. I would dispute that, because we feel we understand its mind. Instead, we regard its senses as a practical means to augment our own. And, you know, I think this aloofness and this kind of this indifference, which I think sometimes is interpreted as indifference, is something that attracts me as a person to cats. You can't really see this very well. This was my first engraving of cats, age 5 or 6. You can see I got a gold a star and a big tick for it. But unusually, when people ask me where's this thing for cats come from, I wasn't brought up with cats. I've never in my life owned a single cat. This was my dog, Emily, and she looked quite cat-like. She looked a bit like one of those baby seals that gets clubbed, which was quite endearing. But she was so bloody, you know, she wasn't independent, and she was so needy. And I just felt, you know, I did have a connection with her, but not as much as cats. Then the internet came along, and suddenly my love for cats could explode in different ways, and I could express it and find images and videos, and I have the best cat playlist on YouTube in the world. And this is, you know, I was going to sort of just do a quick rundown of memes and cats and internet memes, but there are too many. But this is a kind of tree, and I'll send you a link if you are interested in that kind of thing. This was my first avatar image when I first went online. I actually did a doctorate on online communities and the difference between on and offline communities and young people and identity in the 90s. So all that existed was things like you know, bulletin boards and muds and moos and chat rooms and ICQ, and this was actually my first avatar ever, because I was intrigued by the fact that cats can use human toilets, and this wasn't actually the picture. I can't find that one. Then Second Life came along, and of course, in order to avoid all the inappropriate advances that you'd get if you choose to be a female in Second Life, I chose to be a cat instead. And also note the distinction between being a furry and being this kind of avatar, because you had to be very careful about what avatar you chose as a cat going into Second Life, because then you would be then approached not because you were a big boobed female, but because you looked like a furry. Then my first encounter with a real-life cat and my first relationship with a cat occurred. With this cat, at the time I lived in Newington Green, and we had a little garden, and this cat just turned up, and I couldn't work out if she was really, really young or really, really old. And her name was Lily. We knew that much. And she just kept me company. And I would sit out in the garden, I would leave the door open, she'd just come in. And I spent hours just staring at her. And then she would sort of stare at me occasionally and go, "What, dude? You know, stop staring at me." But she was a very calming influence for me. And I was just fascinated in watching her behavior and why she chose to spend time with me and hang out with me. And I remember the last time I ever saw her, this all went on for about 6 months. The last time I ever saw her, she sat at the door, and I could sense something was up. And she sort of sat there, and she looked behind and looked at me, and then looked out and looked at me again and almost nodded and left. And that's the last time I saw her. And then I found out that she died a couple of days later of some tumours in her liver. And, you know, that was really a groundbreaking moment for me, because it was the first proper relationship without owning a cat that I'd had with a cat. Then I had my cat called Alcatraz. Now, my YouTube playlist, my YouTube account is Alcat's account. He has his own Twitter, but he's sort of retired from public life now, because he spent a lot of time with me around about between 2006 and 2009, really, doing a lot of events with me. And I just used to bring him along. I love cuddly toys as well and stuffed animals, because I think everything has I kind of talk to everything. Alcat came along to South by Southwest with me. This was his second, this might be his first or two. He came to 2 South by Southwest with me, and he enjoyed the conference. He went to talks with me. He found out about robotics. He encountered things like, for the first time, Microsoft Surface. He was really intrigued. He drank, he taught, he laughed. He even appeared on a panel with me, which people didn't quite understand, because he didn't really say very much. And this was my most proudest moment, was him meeting Master Chief, just on his wanderings. And, you know, he was a really interesting object to carry around with you, because people came and talked to you, and people kind of, like, crazy cat lady, what are you doing with this puppet cat? He's not a puppet. He gets really offended if you call him a puppet. Never call him a puppet, dude. And they were like, well, so what are you doing? Well, it's fun, okay? It's fun. And it becomes a social object around which connections are made. People will talk to me because I've got a puppet cat. It's not a puppet. He even did live karaoke with me on stage. So fast forward, I then, before I got this job, I was a commissioning editor for education at Channel 4. And here's the link. London Educational Games. And I started commissioning games. This was and I said to all the lovely companies, development companies we worked with, I want a cat in every game, Joe, but the sort of aim of these games is, to reach out. Yeah, I want a cat in every game. I loved being a commissioner. And this is called Fallen City, and this is by Jim Rosignol of Big Robot. And he got so excited. I remember the first thing I saw out of this game was the artwork for the cat. And he sent me the artwork. Here's our cat! Here's our cat! I was like, that's freaking awesome! This was Sweatshop by Little Loud, which subsequently got banned from the App Store because they don't think games can be used to make a political point. This was by Little Loud, fantastic company, which has since unfortunately folded. They did a lot of work with us. Spot the cat, spot the cat, spot the cat, yay. But there was editorial justification for this cat because in sweatshops, cats are often used to chase away eat the mice and the rats. True, it's a practical thing. This was International Racing Squirrels by the wonderful Rob Davies here. And this is Jarvis. And Jarvis was your guide through the game, which featured squirrels. So, Rob kind of... we thought, well, it's best not to... Again, it was editorial justification for this. It's best not to have a squirrel guiding you through how you're going to be training up your squad of squirrels, the racing team. Best use another animal, dog. No, not dog. Cat. Yeah, cat. And you actually put a lovely Easter egg in there for me on his tail, right? Is it...
Copy of International Racing Squirrels, it comes up with the message, this cat is the property of Dr. Joe Twist.
Yes. I got myself in a game. This was The End by the fantastic company Preloaded, who we also did. This was a game about death. And, there were cats in there, T-shirt choice. Also, one of the objects that you collected through the game was a cat, which I was very pleased about. Even the Thrill Electric, which we did with Hattrick and with Little Loud, it was an interactive online and app comic with some animation and some video animation in it. And the main character is called Kitty, because we couldn't quite editorially justify a cat in a 18th, 19th century Liverpudlian telegraph office. So here's where it begins to get really tenuous, and I know I'm probably over time now. Okay. So I went through quite a difficult period, probably about 5 years ago, when my mum died. And I also was really unhappy at Channel 4 because the whole strategy was beginning to change away from commissioning games for educational purposes. And I thought that was the wrong strategy. I wasn't very happy, and we had new management. My boss had been made redundant. Alice Taylor, who I loved, left to set up Makey Lab, and it wasn't great. It wasn't a great time. I found yoga, and I went on, had never done yoga before, never done it, and I went on a yoga retreat, which I was quite nervous about. I went to Crete, and the most delightful thing happened. I realized I went to this yoga retreat, which was run by this fantastic Geordie couple, and it was the most relaxed, fantastic holiday I've ever been on. I went twice, and there were cats everywhere, and they were just feral cats, but they just came and hung out. And you did your morning practice, and they would just, I spent ages just watching us do yoga. And then, when cats clean their bums, that's cat yoga. Okay, so, and I would really just, for feral cats, they were really approachable, and I learned about the bits that you should stroke and the bits that you shouldn't stroke with those yoga cats. But I just was fascinated watching them because they just seemed to match what yoga was about. They seemed to sort of epitomize to me yoga and what yoga was trying to teach me and what I loved about yoga, the stretching and the positioning and just the nonchalance and the mindfulness that yoga teaches you. And they just didn't bother about people doing downward facing dogs at all. And I actually tried, this is why I'm not a games artist, because I tried every time I was learning a new position, I actually started to draw a cat doing yoga to help me remind myself of the positions that I was learning so that I could self-practice. That's not a euphemism, by the way, that's a yoga term, self-practice. And these weren't very successful because I was a shit artist. And then I realized loads of people started buying me yoga cat books. But the reason why, you can't read this at all, can you? So I'm going to have to read these out. The reason why I sort of am trying to make this tenuous link, so the reason I was obsessed with this kind of connection between yoga and cats and what I was going through at the time is because of the point of mindfulness. So mindfulness, which is what yoga teaches you, means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. Now, this might seem anti to what a cat does. You might look at a cat and they think they're judging me. Look at them, they're judging me. They're not. But I think cats are very mindful and they live in the presence. And I think, being mindful and what yoga taught me was also about ideas about resilience. And I'll read this out. Research using EEG and fMRI technology has shown that mindfulness, meditation, and training in cognitive reappraisal can increase activation of the left prefrontal cortex. This is important because people with greater activation of the left recover more rapidly from negative emotions such as anger, disgust, and fear. This was a pretty important kind of revelation to me, and what helped me kind of meditate and what helped me sort of achieve mindfulness during my yoga experience was actually at the same time watching these cats. And I realized when I was watching cats and stroking cats and hearing cats purr and being present with cats, they made me feel more mindful and they made me feel I had this relaxed state. Now, this is where the connection I'm trying to make to resilience in games and cats and yoga comes to it. So I'm going to blatantly use quite a lot of quotes from Keith Stewart's piece recently in The Guardian about why video game developers love cats. I promise. Now, in this piece, he says, like game code, cats are never yours, never quite in your control. Cats are computer programs with fur. They are systems to be observed. And he interviewed quite a lot of developers who have cats. And, as you know, we've seen this real revival of the indie development scene and a lot of single developers developing from their homes and being isolated. Like indie developers, cats can get by with minimal contact. They don't need you. They don't need to go out or cling to social scenes. Something that I actually would dispute. The indie developer's life, this is Daniel Cook from Spryfox, who we interviewed. The indie developer's life is one well suited to the introvert. You've got long, see, I can't read that from there. You've got long hours spent essentially alone with most of your thoughts buzzing about inside your own noggin. Cats are generally amenable to this sort of life. They sleep a lot and don't require you to constantly take them out to poop. Yet at the same time, they do act as a social companion. I also feel that both cats and games are surrealist entities. There's something nonsensical about game design, like those odd connections between mushrooms and jumping that provoke gasps of bewildered delight. Cats regularly provoke similar moments of delighted mystery. And just one more. Game developers like systems that have the capacity to beat them. They are simultaneously appalled and challenged by bugs in their code. Cats are coding challenges incarnate. They are bugs in the household. They are contradictory mass of strange behaviors. They are games, but they are not easy games. They don't explain the rules, and the rules change anyway. The best games provide chaos with structural limits. Cats are chaotic, but generally they are containable, and you don't know if they need you or not. But you don't have to worry about that because they are mostly okay and you can get on with coding. So here's where, you might be thinking this age connection error. I don't understand what she's trying to say. Well, I don't really either, but I know that there's something there. There's something, this connection. And it is all around this kind of resilience and this kind of mindfulness and this kind of attitude that resilience brings you. And cats generally are pretty resilient as animals, as a kind of they epitomize resilience in a lot of ways. The myth that they have 9 lives. This is the cat makes harrowing 200-mile trek to find its way home. Constantly see stories like that. But resilience really is about being connected. It is about mindfulness, but it is about being connected. Resilience, and you can train, so this is what we commissioned at Channel 4, was a lot around, we know that games are good perseverance systems. They help you understand failure. They help you with trial and error. They help you understand the consequences of decisions you make and choices you make. But resilience is also about kind of rolling with punches. and learning from experiences and adapting to change and to adversity and to the unexpected. The key remit for us was to prepare teenagers for the unexpected and the next generation for the unexpected. And having emotional resilience means being less afraid of failure and open to different strategies. So games equals resilience. Cats are not indifferent, but they are resilient. Making games is really hard. Running a business is really hard. Isolation when you're running a business, especially if you're a small business, is really difficult. But we have to learn resilience from our companions, and that's not just the furry ones, it's also humans. But we probably can learn a thing or two from cats. And that's what we try to do at UKIE, is to try and help make connections for people, to try and bring together all sorts of different people who need to understand that you can roll with the punches. It is a hard job out there, but we're here to help. Thank you.